Hello and welcome to another guest episode of Emoji Chat. And today with us we have Jamie. Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. Maybe Jamie, if you wanna just present yourself and give a bit of a background so the audience gets to know you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Roberto. Really appreciate it. So I'm a business turnaround specialist based in the UK, in the south of England. Unfortunately, I'm not based in Seville. I am working on it with my wife. And I do remind her on a daily basis that I would prefer to be in Seville, not just Spain, but Seville as well, and eating tapas and drinking vermouth. But unfortunately, I'm in the south of England where we don't really experience summer as such. And weather in Seville is probably better in January than an English summer. Certainly drier anyway.
That's fantastic, Ben. And maybe just to get the audience, because I know exactly what you mean, because we've been in the same trading and community for quite some time now. But what do you mean by a business turnaround specialist?
Yeah, so what we do, so you and I are in a mergers and acquisitions group, Roberto, that specializes in buying and selling companies. I've kind of taken it down another route using my experience, and I use a model called consulting for equity. So effectively, I go into businesses that perhaps aren't in the best health, and improve them to systemize and make them more profitable and make them add shareholder value to the business in exchange for taking an equity position in the company. So I'm incentivized to, whereas a business coach will say, well, I'll charge you £1,000 a month and I'll give you ABC information and it's down to you whether you use that information or not. I'll say, look, give me a percentage of your business. I will make this work. Your business probably isn't worth anything at the minute. So if I take a percentage, my goal is to make my percentage worth something. That's how I benefit long term. And in doing so, your percentage is going to be worth something as well. Plus you get a mentor to help you through the process.
Fantastic, man. That's what we call value added, man. Thank you. That is a fantastic explanation. So I think I was thinking while you were explaining the concept itself, it's actually very relatable to self-development and emotional management, because at the end of the day, you mentioned the word shareholder value, and a lot of businesses tend to focus on just the creating sales and revenue, and then the focus is on the customer, where the real money making is bringing value to the shareholders.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure you've had this as well, Roberto. When you speak to business owners, they go, oh, we would have been more profitable, but we've reinvested it back into the business, which usually means they've spent money on stuff that they regret spending money on. Whereas actually you want to not always reinvest your money back into the business, but you want to add shareholder value and take money out as you go. But in doing so, actually add value to the worth of the business so you can exit it in the future.
Absolutely. Which is related to our emotional health and financial personal health applicable as well. In terms of self-development, we should do exactly that model when we talk about, instead of focusing just on the output, on our customer, like the future us, right? We need to work on the share value of the moment now. It's what I...
Yeah, and I think they go hand in hand. I'm not saying just focus on ourselves and make us money and forget the customer. I think the better you look after the customer, the better quality the business is going to be. Therefore, the more shareholder value you're going to have. But I think if you get the right culture where you prioritize your customers, you prioritize your staff, that in hand will add shareholder value. But it's reminding people that we set up a business to make money from a business while helping people. And if you're constantly delaying taking money out of the business to reinvest, unless you're doing a long-term play to exit or take it public in 20, 30 years, I think it's important to remind yourself that we actually make money by taking money out of the business and when we exit. And by creating a business that has shareholder value, you can also then, if you've got a pie, for example, and it's a tiny pie, you want 100% of it. If you grow the pie to 10 times what it is on day one when I get involved, that means that there's enough there to give staff and incentivize staff as well, therefore improving the culture. So the bigger the pie, the more to go around and the more valuable it is because more people are actually enjoying the pie.
Fantastic. Thank you, man, for sharing that. Now, walk us a little bit through that journey, man. How did you get into that world of mergers and acquisition and consulting for equity? What was the journey towards that?
Yeah, my background's completely different to most people's. Lots of people in this game come from a corporate background or they come from a property investing background. They realise that the courses they went on for property to get rich quick, they didn't get rich quick, so they look for the next course, which tends to be business buying, which is in fashion at the moment. But I don't come from a corporate background. I'm an ex. I'm not sure what you call it in Spain. I'm an ex doorman, an ex bouncer. I stand outside nightclubs where it's a lot colder in the UK than it is Spain. I'm an ex-taxi driver as well, so I don't come from a corporate background, but I've always been quite entrepreneurial. So at the age of 25, I invested my life savings, which I had put aside to buy my first property. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was horrified when I said I'm going to invest all those savings to go and do a mergers and acquisitions course with a gentleman called Dan Pena at his castle in Scotland. And I came back at just my eyes were open. I had a good, not an average to good sized business. It was bringing me a good lifestyle, but it wasn't a good business. There wasn't much shareholder value there, as we alluded to earlier. And I said, right, I need to change this. I need to get into mergers and acquisitions. I need to be like the guy I've always wanted to be like anyway, Thomas Crown from Thomas Crown Affair, which I didn't really understand what mergers and acquisitions was. I just wanted his life from the movie. And I said, right, I need to get into this. So, yeah, I did a course, but unlike most people do courses, I actually implemented the skill sets that you get taught. And I spent 3 to 4 years trying to get a single deal done, 11 million, probably at the time about a 15 million euro care home deal over the line. And it didn't go through. And I spent a fortune on legal fees, but I just see that as my tax for all the learning that happened during that period. And then I bought a group of hair salons during COVID. Without realizing it, they turned into a business turnaround situation. I didn't buy them with the intention of them being a turnaround, but I managed to fix those and exit those for a mid 6-figure sum. And then I did another lot of training, which where I met yourself, Roberto, on the Harbour Club. And again, I had more skill sets, more knowledge just being pieced together. And since then, I've been taking equity in companies and scaling them. In order to add shareholder value for the owner who remains in place, and also for us as well, who takes an equity position in the company.
So I'm quite successfully, I might add, huh? Because I think you guys have in your portfolio about what, 200 plus companies?
No, not 200, not 200, nothing like that. We got 18,
Oh,
but we've done
18. Oh, no, sorry.
18.
That's why I confused it because you had a meeting with over 200 people on some sort of training with business owners, correct?
Exactly that, and we got a WhatsApp group growing as well. That's about 500. But I couldn't have 200 companies. I'd have to turn my phone off all the time.
Because I guess no, thank you. Because I actually misplaced that information when you said that 200 plus business owner group. I thought that was the portfolio owners of the.
Absolutely not. So when we first went into this, my goal was to have just 10. And I've got a vision book that I read with my little boy. He's only 2, but I kind of get my goals, turn them into images. And you get photo books. So you take your photos, you turn them into a book. So I've got a big old book. I turn them into images and me and my little boy read it. And I looked at my old one the other day and it was have equity in 10 companies. And now my current book, because I'm tending to update this book on like a quarterly basis at the minute because things are developing so quickly. It's just to be invested in 50 companies, take a minority percentage in these companies, and then help them scale, and then maybe look to exit about 10 of them a year to create some liquidity events, and then just improve the quality of the owners and potentially the businesses. By being in the turnaround space, you're obviously looking for companies that probably aren't in 100% health, but we have got 2 or 3 companies that are really, really profitable from day one. So yeah, maybe looking to improve the quality rather than the quantity moving forward. And when I say quality, I'm probably referring to the mindset of the owner
Right.
rather than the actual business.
So it's not about so much about the numbers, but actually what the owner can bring. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think, by definition, a distressed company is an owner that's stressed as well because the business isn't performing. So if they've been in that position for 2-3 years, they're quite worn down. So it's actually easier to turn the business round than it is to turn the personality round. So personality is probably our main criteria now, because if they're worn down and feel defeated, and they don't feel like they can achieve anything great from the business or create a 7-figure exit for themselves, then trying to convince them takes more energy than it does to actually fix the business itself.
Which is quite contrary to what I think the general public think of investment and mergers and acquisition. It's all about numbers, right? And I think a lot of the way that Jeremy put it in the course was that he's democratizing investment, right? It's about democratizing wealth, and the way that you put it, I think I love it, Jamie, because it's not so much which. Don't I think the audience shouldn't get us wrong that the figures are very important in a business. That's what keeps the business running. But it's about people. Business is really
Absolutely.
about people, instead of money. Just
It's probably worth pointing out, though, that the businesses I'm involved with are very small in comparison to when you say M&A, everyone thinks it's about the numbers. The numbers in those kind of deals are probably larger than the companies I'm working with. So it's a different game. So it's hard to compare it. So the average revenue of one of our portfolio companies is probably between £1 and £2 million. Whereas I think the numbers are obsessed once you start, the numbers are more important, not more important, but they're a bigger deal from a due diligence point of view and from a metrics point of view when you're starting to look at companies that are maybe making a profit of 1 million in comparison to a revenue of 1 million.
exactly. Thank you, man. But in general, people think mergers and acquisition. They think a bunch of lawyers dressed up in suit in a very long table, just with the suitcases arguing about paper. But it doesn't have to be just that. Which in some cases, like you said, it is. But I think it's more.
Yeah, there's a whole profession for that, right? And like the whole, I'm sure you've got it in like Madrid, but in London, you go uptown, and that's what mergers and acquisitions are. But they're the top 2 to 3% of the industry that's been glamorized, whereas actually a lot of mergers and acquisitions activity is hovering a lot lower. So you've got the big boys at the top, that the PLCs that hoover up all the smaller companies. Then you've got the private equity houses below that, which are looking at companies that probably do 2 to 3 million plus. And then you've got all these smaller players that are investing and acquiring SMEs, which is the level that I'm playing at. So yeah, they're completely different games. I would like to go up levels, but I'm also very comfortable being aware of what I don't know. So I'd rather learn on the job and keep learning and surrounding myself with people better than myself and expanding that or limiting that knowledge gap that I currently have, and then going up a level. Whereas what I see a lot of people do is they try and go to the top level straight away, like I did with the care homes, and you get burnt because you don't have the experience and you haven't earned your stripes enough to pull off those transactions. So I'm playing a long game. I'm starting lower in the game, but I'm making less mistakes. And when I do make mistakes, the consequences for them mistakes are a lot lower. So when I do go up in levels, I won't make those same mistakes when the stakes are higher.
I love that division because I spent quite some time when I talk to business owners for potential deals. I have to invest some of that conversation to help them understand in what game they're playing, because a lot of the business owners think, oh, my business is worth 10x of what I'm making in a bit. Then I think, look, there are trenches in this game. You're you're in the game with the SMEs buyers, and it's a bit of a shock for them. It's like a emotional shock for them to find it out.
Yeah, they definitely need educating, and there's no liquidity there. And if they leave the business is valueless anyway. But it's hard to explain to someone that you spent 30 years building something that possibly isn't worth anything. So you have to word it in a correct way. But at the same time, you've got to be honest, because what a lot of these brokers do is they tell them their business is worth 10 times multiple just to get their listing fee. But then it sits on the market and it doesn't sell, and that they've been taken advantage of. And they think the broker's being nice to them by telling them it's worth more than what it is. But they've been taken advantage of. They've parted with money to list this business. Whereas I'm of the opinion that sometimes you have to be harsh to be nice, but you have to educate them in a way and not tell them their business is a load of crap, but explain to them why their business is maybe not as valuable as they've been led to believe elsewhere. And try and flip it around a little bit and just say to them, look, if you had £1 million, would you invest it would you give yourself £1 million to leave the business and leave me running it? Would that be a good investment for you? And they're like, no. Okay. So you have to try and make them see from the other side. that once they're removed from the business probably doesn't have a lot of value, doesn't have many systems, there's a lot of work to do, it's not stable, there's no liquidity there because there's no shares moving in and out that they can capitalize on. So yeah, it's more of an educational piece, but it's a tough pill to swallow, right?
It is indeed, and I was going to ask you because that's where it comes to the emotional part. How do you? Because it's always about rapport building. Yeah. How do you go about telling a business owner who spent 25, 30 years, telling them, look, your business is worth zero right now, and because obviously you have to do it because on the other end of the buyer, you have to let them know what cards we're playing on the game. But how do you go about rapport building while telling the bad news?
I'd love to sit here and say I'm amazing at rapport. Here's my top 3 tips on rapport. I'm not the best. I'm quite a straight shooter. But what I have done is I've got a couple of business partners. So I'm a partner at a company called Monopoly Capital. I'm one of 3 partners. I would say my 2 business partners are better at that than myself. I'm more straight to the point. I'm more direct. That's something that I'm aware of and I need to work on. On the back of my phone, I've even got like the top highlights from how to win friends and influence people. So I constantly remind myself. I do come from the Dan Pena school of bluntness and to the fact. So I'm not the best at educating people on that, but I surround myself with people that are better than me. So it rubs off on me. I'm probably not the worst, but it's not a strong point of mine, in my opinion.
All right, that's fair enough. But to be honest, I've experienced some of the interaction with you, and you're quite likable in a sense. I mean, you're quite reachable in a sense. Even in the potential bluntness, I think it's what I was going to say is that part of that rapport is demeanor, right? You're being honest with what you are. You're being honest in the conversation, and that even if you're a straight shooter, that comes through with the other party.
Yeah, I think the one benefit is that people don't have their backup because I'm not going into sales mode. So when people go into sales mode, they get a bit defensive. I kind of skip sales mode and just get straight to the point, which has its benefits. But at the same time, building long-term rapport is if it comes naturally, fantastic. But I'm not very good at being strategic and manipulative with it. I'm kind of it's what I think just comes out my mouth, which has its good points and also has its bad points.
I'm guessing that it will be, especially in the business model that you guys are applying in terms of the consulting for equity. You're there on the long term with these guys until you do your exit, right? So at some point that that's one thing I think that like you're quite straightforward. That's fantastic, but you're honest about it, and I think that is a strong foundation into a long-term relationship. You know what you're getting is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I've kind of tailored my brand around that as well. So instead of sending letters to people saying, I want to buy your business, or emails to people saying, I want to buy your business, a lot of our leads come in inbound through my LinkedIn, through my content I post on my LinkedIn. And what a lot of people do is they post content on LinkedIn and they try and say all the right things to impress everybody and make everyone like them. I pretend that I'm just documenting my journey and I'm talking to myself or I'm talking to my son in 15 years' time. So I write my posts how I talk. I do video content how I talk. I'm quite blunt I wouldn't say I'm blunt. I just express my personality. I am how I am in person as I am on LinkedIn. So when people approach me, that they know exactly what they're signing up for already. And that actually shortens the process of getting people to sign up with us because I don't need to do a 2-3 call, go and meet them. Out of 18 companies that we work with, I'd only met one owner until we did our big meetup where all the owners met each other. So that's 17 companies have given me equity in their business without ever meeting me. And I believe a lot of that is because I am so direct and honest. There's that trust basis. They don't feel like they need to wine and dine me 3-4 times to build that trust because I am who I am. And that comes across on my LinkedIn as well.
Exactly, man. That's where I wanted to lead the conversation because what I called that in my book, I called that emotional dissociation, right? So you don't have that because people, when you're trying to, like you said, when you go into sales mode, you got a speech prepared, right? And then people can smell where the smoke is coming from sometimes. But here is, look, if you're honest about yourself and you don't dissociate your branding, your identity in social media or whatever, then that's what you get. They know what they're getting into, and you don't have to convince them to if they want to walk into.
Absolutely. And a lot of people just talk about their strengths. I'm quite open about my weaknesses, as I've already touched on this podcast. And this podcast is going to go out into the general domain. So potential people that may want to partner with me now know that I don't think I know everything, and they know my weaknesses, and that it might not be for them. But at least it's deterred them from wanting to work with me if I'm not a good fit. But it's also attracted people if I am a good fit. So by being yourself, it's good because you actually repel the people that aren't a good fit for you and attract the people that you feel are a good fit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which does not take what your earlier statement said, that you're actually improving, right? So it's not about getting stuck on where you are just because it's you. No, it's about you being true to yourself, but you want to get your better version.
Absolutely. And I surround myself with people that have complementary skills or are better than me and to cover my weaknesses. So I've actually, Roberta, I think when we did a certain course, we had an accountability group, didn't we, for 12 weeks afterwards with somebody who's more experienced than us. And he is now one of my business partners, Richard Pennock. So when we're having weekly calls with Richard, just to make sure we're doing the right steps and making progress, Richard's an ex-investment banker that's had a 7-figure exit to a FTSE 250 company. So he was actually our accountability mentor because he'd been there and done that. And he's now one of the partners at Monopoly Capital. So that's a great example of that.
Because then there's another lesson for the audience. It's about leveraging your network, right? So your contacts. You don't have to have all the skills yourself. You're bringing your true identity, your brand, but you can surround yourself with people that build you even higher.
The one thing Dan Pena taught me is if you're going to do this on your own, you're going to fail. If you surround yourself with killers, you can win. And everyone sat there and said, why would killers want to be associated with me? Like, because at the time I'm like a 25-year-old fat kid in a suit that doesn't fit very well, that drives a taxi, right? And I'm like, why are these killers going to want to be associated with me? And he said a word. He said enthusiasm. And enthusiasm, I think, is I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's like a Greek word for like undefeatable or something like that. You need to Google it to get the correct phrase. But if you've got enthusiasm and you can sell your vision, and not sell by like trying to convince someone that it's going to benefit them in a sleazy way. Yeah, if you can share your vision in a way that's compelling so that other people buy into it, that's 90% of it. And I feel like I've got that, and that's something that's really put me in good stead, and that's attracted good people to want to work with me. So you don't need to be the most intelligent in the room. You don't need to have all the skill sets. But if you can just visualize exactly what you want, and you can express your vision in a way that's going to want other people to join you on that journey, you're halfway there.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So how do you avoid, because a lot of, and this is a buzzword, but it's a real thing. Because when you're starting something, it's very easy to fall in the trap of the imposter syndrome, right? Because how do you find that boundary of, I'm just gonna share my convincing enthusiasm, and at some point, or maybe just share your experience, maybe you've gone through it, maybe not, but have you gone through the imposter syndrome, and if you have, how do you avoid it with that enthusiasm theory?
I kind of don't get imposter syndrome because I let my actions do the talking. So I think people get imposter syndrome. So if I said I'm an M&A guru and I know absolutely everything, I'd be lying to myself, and that makes you feel like you have imposter syndrome. If I said I'm new in this space, I've got these skill sets, but I lack these skill sets, so I'm going to take action every day to bridge the gap and get better, then I'm not telling myself a story that isn't true to have imposter syndrome. I'm telling myself I need to take these actions to get better. So my only goal for that day is to take those actions. And if I write down, do 3 things today to get better, and I do those 3 things, then I've won. And if you've won, you're not an imposter. So if you chunk it down and you actually do keep the promises to yourself that you say you will, and you don't get carried away and lie about what your true reality of your position is, I think you can prevent imposter syndrome. It's not something that I've really experienced, because if you just focus on winning every day, you don't really get a chance to think about it.
It's a fantastic piece of advice. That's a good antidote to the imposter syndrome, which a lot of people go through. So thank you for sharing that, and that's very good. So chunk it down. I like that because at the end of the day, you have to break the big cake into smaller pieces to eat it.
Yeah, well, if you say you're Premier, you walk around a nightclub and you say, "I'm a Premier League footballer," but you don't play football, you're going to have imposter syndrome, right? If you say, "I'm an aspiring footballer," and I train every night for 2 hours, then you're not an imposter because you are an aspiring football player and you've got the actions to back it up. And you're not walking around saying you're better than what you are. So if you're chatting up a girl at the bar and go, I'm an aspiring footballer, I'm not where I want to be at the minute. I'm only playing for Seville, but one day I'll get to the big leagues and play for Betis. Um,
Oh no, you're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna get me in trouble.
No, but if you take the actions every day and you don't get too ahead of yourself and go around telling everyone that you're Cristiano Ronaldo, if you just say, look, I'm an aspiring footballer, I'm not where I want to be at the minute, but I'm taking actions every day to get there, you're not an imposter. You're telling the truth and you're backing it up with evidence to build your self-confidence. So, yeah, it's just about actions and chunking it down, in my opinion.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Maybe I got a couple of questions because the next one is on relationship management, right? Because you said that you're looking to go into the 50 companies investment. That's a goal. At the end of the day, you have a team now, but still, even with the team and the increasing 500 plus group of business owners that you chat about, it's a lot of communication channels and relationships to manage. I had a wonderful chat last week with Stephen Kahn, another M&A Harvard Clubber with us, and he was saying, and I agree in a sense with him, that it's better to have less stronger connections than a lot of what people following you up in any environment, right? And how do you go about managing an increasing growing or a growing group of people in that sense?
Yeah, so we didn't strategically do this, but you find the best way along the route, a bit like a river. The river finds the easiest way to meander around. So we find WhatsApp groups for each company are good because there's free partners. It means that one of us can respond in due course. Once they get to a certain level, we move the calls from weekly to bi-weekly. We use project management software such as your Trellos and Monday.com. So, for example, if I was teaching you how to use a cash flow forecast on this call, Roberto, I would record that and then I'd upload it to the board on Monday.com for your business so that if you had any questions on it, you could go and watch the video back. And then if you had any further questions, you contact us rather than just calling us every day saying, I've got another question about the cash flow. So it's learning how to systemize it as you go. Some people are more needy than others. That's usually down to their personality or down to how much work the business needs. But we kind of just manage that. But I must say, most people are really respectful of our time.
Fantastic. Good. So it's about systemizing communication, yeah?
Systemize it, yeah. And of course, some people are going to need you more than others. But the model we have is where we take a minority percentage in their business. Then by definition, that means that they've got the majority, right? And they're still running the business on the day to day. So they're not sat around bored calling you. They are busy running the business. So when they do contact you, it's usually for something that is relevant and important. But because we do have regular calls, etc., a lot of the time they will save those questions for Zoom calls like a weekly call or a bi-weekly call.
Fantastic, man. Seems like a good deal to me. So if any business owner is listening out there, just contact Jamie. Yeah? Are you only working in the UK area? You open up to more than the UK? What's your
Yeah, so we're in the UK at the minute. We went to a Harbour Club meetup a couple of weeks ago. And we've had quite a bit of interest from American companies. And I think I'm going to speak out in Miami in September, so I may look to explore that. But yeah, I think we're open to moving into English speaking companies. I would like a Spanish company simply so I've got an excuse to go over there and maybe get residency. That's something I'm definitely looking at, maybe Gibraltar for tax reasons. But no, we would look at the States and maybe Australia as well, subject to the owner because we wouldn't have as much visibility due to the time difference and being in different locations. So a lot of that would come down to the personality of the owner.
Be a bit of a change on the MO with those business owners at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So the last one is on the personal level. So how do you balance being a parent to the small kids, and then the group, the investments, the teaching, and the so on and so on and so on? What's your secret?
How old are your kids, Roberto?
More they're too big. Mine is 15 and 14. The boy is 15, freaking
But
huge.
you must have started when you were about 5.
Yeah, my stuff. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am. No, I'm not that old, but I started young. But he's huge. He's like 15, but he's like 193. He's a strong kid. And then the girl,
193. Jesus, I'm
kid,
179.
freaking kid. He's a freaking big kid, man. And the girl is just my princess. So she turned 14 in April, so she's okay. But freaking teenage years is an absolute chaos. But yeah.
We're at different levels at the minute. So mine are 2 and 1, and my boy's older and my girl's younger, and they're 15 months apart. And I don't think I've slept in about 2 years. My wife and I have a night in I think it's a spa for her birthday in a couple of weeks. It's our first night away since we had the second one, and she's 18 months now. So yeah, it's very full on. It's very, very hard work. Family life's harder than work life, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. But I must say, I've picked the perfect model to work around my life. So I'd love to sit here and say my life's really stressful, everyone feels sorry for me, but I've kind of so I wanted kids before I even met my wife. I kind of got into M&A because I wanted kids and to have free time. A big motivator for me was to get my income so I didn't need to work by the time we had kids, and that wasn't necessarily the case, but we're pretty much there now. So by having equity in multiple companies and not having in-person meetings every week and every month and having Zoom calls and making things remotely, my normal day, if I'm honest with you, is I wake up at I try and wake up at 5. The kids usually get me up about 4:30 or whatever. I get up, I go to the gym. I know what you're all thinking. You need to go for longer. The gym's more for my brain than my body, because it's like your own time, right? Before the phone starts ringing, before the kids wake up, you get your own time in. I come home, spend some time with my kids. I tend to do work for like 1-2 hours just to move the needle forward on my biggest project. And then I've got like 3 hours to myself, and I drive half an hour every day to go to my favorite walk. And I walk without my phone every day, 45 minutes, just to think and process and file away ideas in my head and get rid of the junk in my head. And then I come home and I tend to do no more than like 3 calls in the afternoon. So I've already had 2 calls today, and I'm recording this podcast with you. And about every other week, I'll maybe work like a Saturday or Sunday, and I'll drive again. I don't mind traveling. I like that travel time to listen to podcasts and maybe call friends and family instead of just work calls. I'll drive an hour down to the coast in the UK, in Brighton, which is a lovely area, and I'll work remotely from there. And then I can get stuff done that day without the phone ringing and without the family. So I did it last week, and I scheduled 3 months worth of LinkedIn content, a video a day, a written post a day, and an image a day. And I can get that done without distractions. But then tomorrow morning, for example, I think I've got a call in the morning, and then I'm taking my little boy to get his haircut, and I'll take him to the farm. And it's lovely to be able to do that on a Wednesday and not just have to cram it in on a weekend, because everyone else tends to cram it in on a weekend, and it's more like their kids become part of their to-do list rather than their lifestyle. And where my kids are so young, it's very important that I spend time with them. And now my little boy goes, "Daddy, are you doing business today? Are you doing business today?" So yeah, no, work-life balance is something that I'd love to complain about, but if I looked at it from the outside, I've got it pretty good.
Yeah, but you put the hours before, though. Huh? I know for a fact that you put the hours to get to this situation.
Yeah, if I've got stuff to do, I will think nothing of setting my alarm clock at 3 a.m. and getting it done before my kids are up, in order to free up the time to spend with them. That happens very rarely, like very, very rarely. But yeah, I'm always willing to put the work in to free up the time to focus on my family, because you can there's two things in life, isn't there? Health and family. You can have all the money in the world, but if you've even got like a bad cough, you'd give all your money just to feel better that day. And obviously family come first. So family first, business close second. And I always wanted to be around my kids as they're growing up. I worked really hard, my wife did, to get our kids. Our first one was IVF as well. So we had to work really hard to actually get pregnant. So yeah, I value it very highly, and I like spending time with my family and make that a big priority. But I must say, sometimes I can't wait to get back to work and have a bit of a break.
Don't blame, don't blame me.
You know what it's like.
No, but that's fantastic. I challenge anyone that will listen to this and that to really find an excuse to not find 45 minutes to disconnect the phone like you do. I don't think there is any circumstance in life where people cannot make the conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm gonna flip it, turn it off, 45 minutes like you do, and then really recharge and talk to yourself.
Yeah, and I walk outside in the woods as well, and it's beautiful, and it's made me a lot of money. Like the 6 hair salons I told you about, they're not like amazing businesses. They were really stressful. My son had just been born, and my wife had a cesarean and couldn't do much, and it's a really stressful time. And I was going to just give them away, and I went for a walk, and I thought, just let my brain do some thinking, and I found a way to structure it where I could actually sell them for quite a decent figure. And I actually executed on that deal within about a week, 2 weeks. So just by taking the time, it allows you not to make rash decisions and allows you to be proactive with your thinking rather than reactive.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, man. Now, how about the low moments? You must have gone through moments of, or maybe not. Huh? Maybe you tell me your secret recipe. How do you go through the ups and downs of business success and disappointment?
Yeah, no, I've lost my life savings twice. Even my biggest success exiting those salons, as I just alluded to, was a tough experience, but taught me lots of lessons. Honestly, I think what I just said, going for a walk every day and actually listening to what your true thoughts are, rather than, if you think about it, your email is just someone else's to-do list popping up in your email inbox. Your phone is someone else's notifications telling you information that they want you to see. There's a lot of noise in the world. So just by taking 45 minutes a day or an hour a day to listen to your true thoughts rather than what other people are programming into your thoughts, that's really big for me. And that's what half the reason why I want to live in Spain, because I can do that throughout the year, because you're not got the weather raining all the time. Like you could just walk on the beach, and even in like winter months, it's dry. Just listening to, it's hard to trust yourself if you never actually have a conversation with yourself. So just by taking time and listen to your own thoughts, and if you go for an hour walk, that first half hour is horrible. You're thinking about your to-do list. You're thinking, I forgot to empty the dishwasher. The wife's going to tell me off. Like all this crap just going on in your head. It's that second half where the magic happens, because you clear all the mess, you clear all the noise, and it allows room for creativity and growth. And that's a big thing for me, and it's helped me a lot.
That is fantastic. And I love, regardless of people, religion and faith and all that, I love a line from the Bible that says that, a servant who doesn't serve his master can never know the master. So it's related to what you say. If we're meant to be the master of our own destiny, how are we able to trust what we're going to achieve or what we can achieve if we don't even spend time with ourselves?
Absolutely. And if you go on social media, you're told a Lamborghini success, right? But I'd much rather go to the zoo with my kids than have a Lamborghini. But I know that because I have that conversation with myself every day. And I think, what do I really want? What do I really value? But when you don't take the time to listen to yourself and you listen to what other people are telling you all the time, you start being lazy and start listening. And this is how they program you. You start thinking, oh, Lamborghini means success. Lamborghini means success because I've seen the pictures, the yellow Lamborghini, the yellow Lamborghini. If you take the time and go, actually, what's important to me? It's easier to step back and go, that's just a shiny object. That's just a distraction. Let's ignore that and focus on what we're doing. But otherwise you get distracted and start chasing all these success, materialistic stuff that people tell you is successful. So just by listening to yourself and finding out what's important to you is really, really vital. And I think that's a lot of people, I'm not sure in Spain, I don't think this is the culture, but a lot of people in the UK, when they go on holiday, they go to just eat and drink, right? doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel crap. So once a year, I like to go away with a couple of my friends. I like to go climb a mountain. We've done Morocco, typical in Morocco. We've done Bosnia. We're doing Kosovo and Albania this year. And you come back and you feel refreshed and like you've got all these ideas and you feel great for being outside. But I only know that interests me because I take the time to think about it. Like I've been to Vegas a couple of times. I come back, I feel horrendous, right? But when I come back from mountains, I just feel amazing because you're climbing up a mountain and you've got all this time to process. And I think that's really, really important I think it helps in business as well as your personal life.
Fantastic. Thank you, man. You're a superstar. Thank you for your time, man. That was absolutely gold advice. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jamie. Huh? That was fantastic.
Pleasure. Next time in Seville, yeah?
Yeah, you gotta come to the studio, man. That would be lovely.
I'll wait till it cools down a bit. I'm a bit too pasty for that at the minute.
I told you I'll take you to the nice places. What is it that you told me that I need to make sure 2 places? You told me, right?
Oh, what's it called? What's the oldest one? El Riccio?
Could be. I need to figure it out because you wrote it to me and I searched for it, but then we moved the date and I forgot about it.
I think it's the second oldest tavern in Seville. It's opposite a church, and I even remember the barman's name, Simon. And I've been there 2 or 3 times. And there's a hotel in the centre next to the cathedral. Is it Donna Maria?
Yes. Donna
Yeah,
Maria,
and that's got a lovely rooftop bar with a Spanish guitar, and I love it there. I love Seville.
All right, I'll treat you well, man.
Yeah. October time, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I need you to put it in writing formally so I can tell my wife it's actually a business trip.
I will.
Okay?
I will put my logo in there. I will make it like a formal invitation. And we'll make it happen, man.
I'm thinking about spending the month of October in Spain. So I'm going to drive with the kids and with the dog and everything. So maybe I could just jump in a car and come see you in October.
Hey, I'm down here, man. Thank
Perfect.
you. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, man, for your time. We'll talk more.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you. Bye-bye.